these models, this series of models in Delaware, Johnstown, Columbus, South Blue, Sunbury, and Obetz. So it's a very popular series that we have. In terms of where we are currently, that what we presented to you, we have active open space areas with Central Park and playground. Multi-use path from High Street to Lafayette Street, traffic calming circle at the center. The proposed model homes will be 1,400 to 33,000 square feet. We have landscape buffering around the perimeter and throughout the site. And as I'd mentioned before, pretty significant drainage improvements that will help our neighbors. Let me get to this slide, and I want to make sure I'm on the right one. Kind of outlines what we had to go through to make changes to the site plan. If you look at, and it's hard for me to point at it from here, but the drainage corridor that goes right down through the middle of it, there's a stream you see. That wasn't on the original plan. That was identified after we went through our environmental assessment of the site. The darker areas that you see through there are wetlands and environmentally sensitive areas, which we had to obviously protect and maintain, and that requires buffers and setbacks to protect those areas. So now you have a much larger green space that runs through the middle of the site that wasn't previously there. And frankly, we think the site looks better, presents better with this open space as it is now. There was, with 20 acres of open space in the original plan, we now have, with 20%, we now have 24% open space in the site. It was 14 plus acres. Originally, it's 17.6 acres now. In terms of the site plan, and this is what the site plan that was you currently were considering previously, it was in front of you. Just to give you an idea in comparison, this is the updated site plan. So we went from 236 units on the original site plan to 235 units on this plan. The lot configuration is slightly different. There are 48 60-foot lots, minimum 60 foot. The previous site plan had 65. There are 187 minimum 50-foot lots. The previous site plan had 171. So the 60-foot lots are in the same locations as they were in the previous plan, basically backing up to existing neighborhoods. That hasn't changed. The entrance to High Street now lines up with Sharp Street, which it didn't previously, and we had to move that entrance so that we moved away from wetlands down in that area where the entrance was previously. It's actually in a better spot because it does line up directly across the street from an existing street. I mentioned the open space. One last thing with regard to changes to the site plan. The multi-use path that will run from one side of the site to the other, where it's in front of homes, and we just didn't address this previously, where it goes in front of homes, it will be concrete, not asphalt, which is typically what a multi-use path is. So it'll look much better, present much better, just like a sidewalk, it'll be a wider sidewalk as it is a multi-use path. So just wanted to make that clear. This is just the open space plan and gives you an idea of where the paths and sidewalks are that run through the site. I'm going to run through some slides real quickly that really just give you an indication of what the site will look like once built out. This is just the whole site, an aerial view of what the whole site would look like. Same here. This is from looking northwest. This is from East High Street looking northeast. So this is the cul-de-sac back in, I don't know what direction that is, but you can see it on the full site plan as it will lay out with the ponds. This is the entry feature as you come in with the pond from East High Street. This is part of the view of the neighborhood park. And this is the other part of the neighborhood park view, as you see, with the amenities, with the playground and the structure there in the middle. And then this is the other side of the community with the open space in the middle that will present as a really nice play area. And that is all I have. If there are any questions, Greg and Kevin will certainly be happy to help me address those from council. So I appreciate the opportunity again to be here.
Thank you very much. We're glad to see things are moving forward with the project. We know the market is really interesting right now, and contractors and everything is really interesting. So, any questions for Mr. Hills?
Yeah, just a quick question. Looking at where you had the pond right off High Street before and you had to move that, that looks a little smaller. Do we still have the same amount of retention, water retention that we did before?
Yes, we do. And obviously, that'll be nailed down as we engineer it. But under the current assessment, there are actually additional ponds we've added, correct?
All right, any further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, if I could, I'm sorry,
One more.
just popped in my mind. If it's all approved and everything, when would your start date be, target date?
That's a good question. We have to go through engineering, which typically takes 6 months or so, getting that approved, finding contractors, getting their land development, all the contracts worked out, and so we would be at least a year away from starting.
Year, okay.
All right. Thank you again.
Thanks.
All right, and on to our audience concerns. All right, first we have Elizabeth Branson. Please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes, please.
Elizabeth Branson, 500 Graceland Avenue. First of all, I want to compliment the mayor and the city for the beautiful fireworks we had the other night. It was touch and go there for a while. I canceled my cookout, and then I resumed it, and I canceled it, and I resumed it, and I finally was able to have it. So I compliment you on that. And I'm very happy to report that with all this rain that we had today and wind, we had no flooding on Graceland Avenue. And that was a first, I'm sure, for a long, long time. But having said that, we still have a concern in regards to this project on what will truly happen long-term with the drainage. If there's a definite plan, a sort of a guaranteed plan, or will we have a resuming of flooding as a result of bad planning, or perhaps not the right kind of planning with all the projects? If we'd had 2 or 3 days like today, how would that affect our drainage? We're so happy to have this completed, which we're helping to pay for, and we certainly wouldn't want to have to go through flooding again and have to start all over again. So that is a big concern. And I know that we're at your mercy of your vote the next time we have a meeting. We're at your mercy for all of this. And so the 4 concerns, number 1, I just mentioned the drainage. We have a concern regarding the traffic. I don't know how that's all going to work out. I don't know if there's a definite resolve or answer to that, but that could be a real issue and a real problem. And of course, we're also concerned about noise and construction and more crime. And, having lived in Grove City for 25 years, I watched Grove City go from a small farm town with nothing but a farmer's exchange and later on, a Howard Johnson all-you-can-eat fish on Friday night, to where it is today. And I left Grove City because the word progressive started spreading around many years ago. And if you know the before and after of Grove City, you know that sometimes it's not a pleasant community. It has gone to, that's why I left. The noise, the smell, the crime has all increased. If you ever go down Stringtown Road at lunchtime or in the evening, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I would hope, and so I left to come to Madison County to get away from all of that. I'm not an unprogressive person, but I do believe that it has to be completely under control and restricted, or it, do you really want London to turn into a Grove City, a Hilliard, a Dublin, a Plain City? Is that really what you want in the name of progressive? I hope and pray that you don't want to go that far, because this is considered a quiet agricultural town. But anyway, that's why I moved to London, and I love it very much. But of course, that my neighbors and myself, we're at your mercy. All these concerns, complaints, fears that we give to you, and all the audience participation that has done that, we're just asking you to, in your conscience and in your heart and in your soul, to put yourself in our place. I don't know where any of you live. I know where the mayor lives, but I don't know where any of the rest of you live. And I don't know whether you are affected by any of this or not. It doesn't really matter to me. But just put yourself in our place of where we live and how you would feel if all this was being done in your neighborhood. And like I said, I understand housing is probably going to go in there. Nothing I say is going to stop that. But I just pray that the drainage problem, the traffic problem, the noise problem, the crime will be considered and thought about and planned accordingly, so that we are so happy with our drainage that we don't have to ever worry about that again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Michael Norman.
I'll just do this. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Michael W. Norman. I reside at 188 South Oak Street here in the great city, London, Ohio. First, I'd like to thank everyone who is involved in the Strawberry Festival. I might be a little late on that, but I was there. We participated as Lions, and I think it was a great turnout. We were in a good spot right there by the stage, so we got a chance to see all the people flowing by, and I'd like to have been the French fry vendor, because there was a lot of French fries out there. And then also the awesome 4th of July that we had, thanks to the administration and the street department and the police and the fire and everybody who was involved. I think we had some of the best looking fireworks this year, so thank you for that. Secondly, I'm kind of coming on the behalf of someone else who couldn't be here. She's unable to travel around. But recently, she would like to ask our council she says, I would like to bring up an issue on behalf of a fellow citizen. Recently, the city or a representative of the city granted permission to another internet provider to put in their lines or whatever they're called. This resident of London had a very bad experience with the company actually doing the work, the digging and whatnot. The resident said that the company doing the work is bringing heavy machinery onto the sidewalks and into the yards. This resident sent some pictures, and she has a picture of like a couple of sidewalk panels where you can see where it's like cracked all the way through. So she's going to have to replace them eventually once the wetness gets in there. So her question is, who's responsible for fixing her sidewalks? Is it the city who gave permission to the company, or is it the company, or who is responsible for that. She also cited that they left some ruts in her yard from the tank tractor tracks, and that the curb where they came up on has chunks of cement out of it, where it climbed up on the curb and pulled that cement out. So the question from her is, again, does she pay for it, city pay for it, or the company that caused the issue? Thanks.
All right, thank you. Mr. Castle, have you heard anything about this issue?
No, I've not heard any complaints. We did have, we did have a meeting today with the boring company that came in, and they made it clear that if there's any issues, that we need to get it to them, and they will address those. They're gonna, whenever there's boring done, they're gonna dig holes every so many feet. They're gonna get their lines put in. When they get the lines finished, they'll fill those holes in. They told us that they're gonna wait until a large number of the project's finished, and then they'll come in and resod and everything. So there's going to be a little time span where it's going to be disrupted, but they will take care of it. If that person would get with me with what the issues are, we'll get in touch with the boring company. They are responsible for fixing anything that they tear up.
Okay.
So we'll take care of it.
Okay, that sounds good, thank you. All right, next we have Tommy Boyd. Please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes, please.
Good evening, everybody. Tommy Boyd, 48 North Union Street, London, Ohio. Okay, if I just hold it. Does that work? Okay. So just a couple little issues today. A couple about the amount of properties we have coming in and some of the issues that we might be facing with that. But the first one goes back to grass on the inside of curbs. Is that homeowner or who? Von Kennel is a specific one in question. Is Von Kennel us or the school? School. Okay. So otherwise, yep, it's just full owners. All right. Also, chemicals not allowed, correct? Just to put that out there. Had someone say that chemical use for killing any plant life on the outside of curbs is not allowed.
In the roadway?
Yeah.
You mean in outside of the curb in the roadway?
Yep.
Okay.
Haven't heard anything? All right, I'll see who they did hear that from, but otherwise, if hey, you're all right with it, we'll see if we can go. All right, the first one would come down to the citizens on Graceland and the $400 a year extra on taxes for the next 15 years to cover the 60% of the drainage pipes put in. I'm just curious on if it was ever actually said that there wouldn't be anybody else tapping into that drainage pipe.
First of all, the water that's going into that pipe, where's it coming from?
That field.
Exactly.
Everything else back.
So if they put houses and stuff in there and drainage, it's the same water, it's going to go the same direction. So no, it's never been said, and no one will be tapping into it. But that is put in to handle water off of that field. It's just going to be a different structure there. It'll be roads and whatever. There's going to be retainage ponds, which is going to handle more of that water, so there'll be less going through. But whenever they get full, then it'll have to go somewhere. And
So
I would
probably-
think you'd want them to go in those drains.
But maybe just a miscommunication there then, that, because it sounded like there were individuals that thought that wasn't going to be used for any other purpose.
That drainage system was put in to prevent flooding on their property.
Okay.
Okay? So it's taking water off of that field into, instead of going through their property, it's going into those pipes and going on downstream. So
And it sounds like they're happy, so I don't really have any complaints on it.
I'm happy to hear that it
was just
works.
something that if we did say something about it, I was seeing if maybe there was any way to eliminate that tax that they were
The
having to pay
tiles were
extra.
put in to alleviate flooding on their property.
Okay.
So if we don't put water in there, then it's going to go back on their property. We don't want that. We want it to go in the tiles and away, and away from their property.
Sounds good. No worries, just, hey, gotta ask. So, next one would be, during BPU, it was brought up that we ran out of, I believe, the elbow sleeves to hook up the water meters. Is there anyone that will be delayed on moving into their homes because of this and then showing up next year?
Thankfully, our street department superintendent, who's assisting the water department, had connections and found some. And it's not a shortage for the city of London, it's a national shortage. But we were able to find enough to take care of all the new builds that's going to be happening in the next foreseeable
That's-
future, yes.
Yep, just kind of checking on that before we have anyone in here that is going to be a little upset buying a house that they can't move into.
That's why we,
So,
that's why
good
we
job.
did an all hands on deck and we got it taken care of.
Thank you very much. Very good. Next piece would be last month at the Finance Committee, citizen concerns. I came up and started to ask a question, and it was brought up that I wasn't allowed to speak. This is the first out of almost 2 years of committee meetings. I was wondering if we have any type of protocol for if citizens are going to be allowed to speak at these meetings. My main thing was that I came with a specific concern about our fire department and working on financing it. And it seemed I wasn't allowed to be able to talk. And so I was just going to see if there's something we can do, such as a sign-in sheet or anything else maybe at those meetings.
Now, what committee
Hold
meeting
on,
was
Henry.
this?
Henry,
I was gonna say, I
finance.
didn't hear about this.
So finance, you were allowed to speak, but you're going to wait until after our meeting to be able to ask your questions. These meetings, these committee meetings aren't town hall meetings, so we have an agenda, we follow that agenda. And if you have questions or concerns, email one of us council members, talk to us afterwards. But during those meetings, we try to stick to the agenda and follow that agenda. So you weren't.
I'll email over to be on the
You were not told
agenda
that you were
next
not
time.
able to speak, so.
It's all right.
Yep, I
I
know
can
this.
work on that, and
Yep.
I'll make sure I'm there, but that
Well,
was
because as
just,
far as I understood, you're allowed to talk in those meetings, and you guys questions, because, my advice is for people, if they do have questions, to go to the committee meetings. Because the committee meetings are where those things should be hashed out, instead of here in the city council. A lot of people think that here in city council, all the decisions and everything are made, and they're not. The decisions are actually made in the committee meetings, so if there's deep discussion, things like that need to happen, that should happen in the
And
committee meeting, so that way by the time we get to city council, we run nice and smooth.
so
So
yeah,
that's my recommendations.
I'm not sure how it will go, but, it's kind of up to you for the time being, but just kind
Yeah.
of something to bring up as it caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely
you know?
prefer discussions to happen in the committee meetings.
And that was the only thing is, yep, I didn't want it to be, hey, meeting was over and, well, who knows, who might be around. That was the only thing I was getting towards, but thank you very much.
Can I address that also for a moment?
Definitely, yes.
Because I was also at the meeting. So I agree with Councilman Peters that they want to follow the agenda. I also agree with you that you were told you were not allowed to speak until after the meeting was over, and you questioned whether or not you would be allowed to speak during the meeting and be on record, and you were told you were not. So I don't know if there's been a change or if we're going to move forward that way, but I understand the need to follow an agenda and not make it a free-for-all. When you're trying to stay on task, I understand that.
Yeah, I feel in the future it will be, hey, if I do have something such as this, because I was talking about, hey, are we able to pay for our fire department with going back to the 3 mills that we used to have before? But, next time I'll just shoot something over to hopefully get shot on the agenda for the night. Other than that, thank you, Dave Coe with Madison County Commissioner's Office for helping with courthouse sidewalks getting repaired, and it looks like they're even adding on the extras that we were hoping for and getting a couple other pieces fixed up. So, thank you very much, you guys, and have a good night.
Thank you, and again, like I said, I prefer that discussions happen in the committee meetings, because when you have discussions, then you can also come up with new ideas. It may be something you haven't thought of before, or it may be something that you have thought of before, but through discussion, you can come up with lots of new ideas that that you may not have had before, so.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys would like to, even put that out there as kind of, this is just a general allowance or something, but thank you very much.
All right, on to our committee reports. We'll begin with Mr. Stahl.
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. Mr. Hayes.
Okay, Safety Committee meeting will be Tuesday. I believe that's the 11th. Be in the conference room. All are invited. I have BPU meeting minutes from 6:22 and yesterday. I'll start with 6:22. Number one, May meeting minutes were approved. Number two, citizens' concerns, reference water bills. If you get a bill in, say it's due on the 20th, which it is, if it's in by the next morning, and when they open up, there is no charge on that bill, but it has to be in when they open up in the morning on the 21st. We talked about voluntary restrictions on the water. That was because of leaks, hot weather, pool filling. That was voluntary restriction. We talked about the emergency hookup on State Route 38. It is operational. It was tested great. There was some discussion on tap fees. Not up for discussion at this time. I'm going to go on to the next page. We have a F-150 truck. I don't know what year it is, but it's pretty well shot, junk. So there's probably a new truck down the road. Water meters are still being installed. Discussed electric at the pole barn and the new well. There's something like $18,000 to install the electric. There's a new chlorine line going in at East High Street plant. We talked about the yokes. Yokes have been all taken care of. There was discussion about the fire hydrants, particularly the one out here in front of the old school. It sits down. The hydrant can't be moved, but it can be raised, and that will be taken care of in the future. We talked about a strength ordinance for the water department to bring it up to a total of 9. Talked about wastewater. We talked about adjusting the cost for wastewater problems. We're buying new dumpsters, 12 new businesses online, $300 per permit for each business. There are no discounts. BPU office, everything is good. 2,300 meters are done out of 3,900. Again, 2,300 are done out of 3,900. Okay, we had a special meeting yesterday. They went into executive session, came out of executive session, discussed personnel and easement items, but they will be discussed at the finance meeting on Monday night. We talked about lead and a copper survey. It's a survey to request information about lead and water pipes in residential homes. They'll be sent with the July water bills, along with a pre-stamped envelope for their return. City Administration's office email will be included in the letter for residents to use for questions and concerns. These surveys must be returned by August 30th, 2023. Mr. Skaggs made a motion to adjourn. Meeting was adjourned at 1:26. Thank you.
Yes.
Just to clarify, the lead surveys that are going out, it'll be in the August.
August?
August,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes, go ahead.
to ask the question, because there's been speculation about the new sewer plant that the county's proposed to build on 42, and one of the comments made was whether or not, if the county was going to build that, if they could work out an agreement for the city of London to treat their wastewater. Has there been any discussion at those meetings about this?
I defer that to the mayor.
I have a statement about that that I'll read.
Okay.
In my update.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Robinson.
I attended public service last night. I'll go over the Parks and Rec statements. So the swimming pool, so far this year, the front desk has brought in $27,781. Concessions brought in just under $8,000. That's 62% of the estimated revenue that they projected for. So far, we've had 124 passes and punch cards sold. They they hired 2 new lifeguards. They both got their certifications at the Springfield YMCA. Landon was talking about maybe using that program a little bit more. It's a cost saving for the lifeguards. They give them like the written test first, so they're not paying the amount that, I think it was like, what, $10 to take the test. They pass the test, then they would go on to all their physical items that they need to match to become a certified lifeguard. So it was a good way to make sure these guys aren't wasting their money. It's about $200 and some odd to get certified. There's 2 upcoming sessions for swim lessons. There's a morning session between 11 and 12, the 17th through the 20th. The evening session is 7:45 to 8:45. That's the 24th through the 27th. It will be posted on Facebook and their website, the pool's website. They are having on July 10th American leak detection. There is a leak going on in the racing pool. They are losing water. Some of the pipes are having water that shouldn't have water. They're also looking into replacing some of the filter systems at the end of the year, because the system that we have in place right now, they can't obtain the parts because of the age. Cowling Park, they had their first movie night on June 30th. It was very well attended. They do have another one scheduled. The current date is August 18th, but they're looking to change that because it's actually the first football game. Also, the company is coming out to check on the swing set that broke, just to check on everything. Replacement parts will be in. Merrimack, they had 2 new backboards put in on the second court. And then there's some additional programs that he's looking at. Sand Volleyball League, there will be registration for in the summer league, and also looking at the asphalt court down at Cowling Park, turning it into a pickleball court. So that's all I have for that. The next public service meeting will be August 2nd at 6 p.m.
All right, thank you. Mr. Peters.
We're going to change our finance meeting from Monday, July 10th to Tuesday, July